And this recording will be sent out to everybody who either registered or attended. So those of you who have colleagues who couldn't make it today will also get the link to this. And, of course, you guys will also get these slides. So a bunch of you have been in this training before. Did any questions come up between the time we had training and now that you might want to take a look at? All right, then I'm just going to jump right in. So today we're going to talk a little bit about building a certification program from scratch. What do you need to think about? What are some tricks you can use inside of Brand Connect and that sort of thing? Because it is Ask the Expert, this is me. I happen to be the expert on the training module for this particular version of the training module. Because it's Ask the Experts, you can actually ask questions about any module you like. If I don't have the answers, I'll find them out for you, and we'll follow up with everybody in an email to those things. So feel free to either raise your hand if you can't get a word in edgewise. I've had a request to mute everybody. Can I just get everybody to mute themselves right now and let's see if that hand goes away? I think it's you, Martha. All right, I'm going to mute you, Martha. Okay, that takes up the background noise away from me. Martha, you're going to need to raise your hand if you want to talk. So feel free to just jump in. If it seems like you can't get in edgewise, then feel free to raise your hand because I'll be watching for that, and I'll be watching the chat window too, so feel free to ask questions in those ways as well. So typically what we do is we talk a little bit on the topic of the week, which is about certification programs, and then we'll open up the floor for questions about anything you want to hear about, whether it's about the training module or something else. All right, so when we're building a certification program, this is true of anything. Most of you probably have something like it now already. A couple of you on this call have orientation things for new people who come on, and you want to certify those folks as having been through that. I have some other folks that I've spoken to recently who have other kinds of programs. They want to certify people by role. So if they're an instructor of some kind, or if they're a certain kind of a staff member, they have certain qualifications and so on. We want to make sure they're through that. That's another reason to do that. Those of you who have other sorts of HR things you want to put people through. So typically for us, we have confidentiality things that everybody needs to go through, security things that everybody needs to go through once a year or something like that. This would be a good place to keep track of that as well. So the first thing you want to ask, of course, is what's the skill you're looking for people to have? That can either be on the bigger end of the scale, like this guy's going to be a barista, and there are a lot of talents that go into being a barista. One of them is making coffee, but another one is knowing how to clean the machine, and another one is knowing how to explain the differences between the coffees to different people, and another one is making art with foam. So you have a lot of different things, and you might choose to make those different courses. You might actually even choose to make them different certifications amongst themselves. So I have one customer who's actually doing a barista certification, actually, and they have 3 levels. There's a bronze bean and a silver bean and a gold bean, for depending on what skills you add on. So you could choose to make a multi-level certification if you wanted to. Once you know the individual skills, then you need to figure out how you're going to assess them. So we'll talk a little bit about the tools available here. You can't always quiz people. Ideally, when you're building something, you know sort of what the skills are that people are going to have to be a particular thing. Jennifer, I think I'm least familiar with what you guys are doing. Do you have an example of the kinds of things that you're going to be putting together? You are self-muted right now, by the way. There you go.
Okay, so you can hear me now?
I can.
Yeah, well, we put a training together program, but the program is actually 3 weeks. It has different concentrations each week. So we have a marketing concentration, an operational concentration, and an education curriculum concentration. So as I'm listening to you talk about all these things about the skills and the practical demonstrations and the assessments, we're probably going to have to do that threefold. So similar to the little bean example that you just gave, which I thought is actually an adorable concept.
I did too when you said it to me.
It's adorable. we're going to have to probably take everything that that we're gonna learn from you today in this session and do it 3 times over, based on the different skills that they need to understand each week when they come to us, because we really are teaching them how to own and operate a business, and it's a child care business, so it's a child care franchise.
Gotcha. Yep, and some other folks on this call are doing the same sort of thing. Is that a live session where they come to you, but they're following along in some materials, or?
You know, we have it broken down, and we're always, it just seems to evolve every time we do it. So we're looking at a couple of different things. There's definitely policies and procedures that can be read beforehand, and we're working towards that, so that the 3 weeks that they spend with us really is hands-on, pertinent information, because when they come to us, I mean, it's the most timely, it's the most costly, so we want to make sure that when they get to us, we're giving them the absolute best knowledge that we can share with them. So not only are we looking at giving them materials beforehand to read, like policies and procedures, but we also are looking at recording webinars that they can view and maybe take a self-assessment at the end of it, so that we get that reporting, and then we can go over any content that maybe was not as comprehended as well as we wanted it to be, when they get right in front of us.
Nice. Great. I'll show you some tools that might be helpful for you in that.
I appreciate that.
We've got, so very often you have a whole bunch of different modules. Now, my guess, because you guys are in early education, you guys are already way more structured anyway, because you're I'm sure, following your own methodology. So units among those things, particularly if people are taking them on the PC, are most effective if they're shorter, right? So, 10 minutes, you've got, if you want somebody to sit down for an hour with something, it's going to be not comprehended as well as if you can break it up into several shorter ones that you can make them interact with. So BrainConnect can let you interact with a lot of, because we can take any kind of educational material you have. So for those of you who are already sort of in the biz and have the opportunity to make SCORM content or other content where people can interact and click things to move on and so on, we can take all of that content and serve that content in the appropriate way and keep track of how far along they are and all that good stuff. For a lot of us, though, we are not in that biz, and we have a lot of other things. We have some PowerPoint that we might have put together. Maybe all we have is our instruction manual. I've got one customer that's a swim school, so they do a lot of sort of the same aspects of running a business that you guys do kind of at LifeBridge, which is, we have a bunch of kids, we have to keep them safe and engaged at the whole time and learning. But they're not necessarily teaching them lessons. They're not teaching them lessons the way you and I think of lessons, right? They have them in the school and so on. So they have a whole different set of things that they need to do. They don't really have a curriculum per se. They know what it is they want to do. They have a very rigid manual because they're very big into, obviously, making sure that everybody knows all the safety considerations and so on. But mostly, they are doing their training sitting by the pool, and they're doing it out of the manual that they've written. So they're probably what I think of as the lowest engagement level with FranConnect, but they're probably not sitting at a computer anywhere. They're sitting by the pool teaching people to do things, and then they're going to record sort of people's progress in FranConnect, and that to me is sort of the lowest level usage of the training module. And we have people that go all the way up to the high end of that, where all of this stuff is served through, I don't know if you have anybody from Nest, but so food service concept, they have a lot of videos, gorgeously shot videos of exactly how to make their trademark foods. So you open it, and this is exactly how to make the frosting bomb that goes with the frosting dinner that frosts the cupcakes. They have a whole methodology of exactly how a well-branded baked good goes out from their branding. So they are very heavily into having a lot of sophisticated materials for video. So we can serve all of that. Questions? Martha, I think it's you. Yep, it was. Okay, so we can serve any of that. If you're administering on PC, then you have a lot of different options, and we'll show you what some of those things are. If people are taking it on a mobile device, your options are more limited, and it's not as good an experience. I think we all have had that experience. You know, watching a movie on your PC or your television is way better than watching a video on your phone, right? That's your last choice. So again, especially when you're trying to learn stuff, it's really, really hard to stay engaged with something that's playing on your phone. So less good. Paper, again, our swim school, right? The last thing we want is electronic devices around the pool. So they actually administer the quizzes on paper. You don't get the automated grading that way, but nobody gets electrocuted, and that's a good thing too. So we have the ability to support all of that. Now, a bunch of you guys do these things with live events. I'll show you a little bit about what we've got that will help you tie people's engagement of FranConnect in with your live events. So whatever you're doing now, if you send them an Evite or something like that, that's great. We can also tie them in with some of the stuff that FranConnect has so that it can all sort of be in one place. So that's all kind of the output. This is the result you want. What skills do you want them to have? How are you going to tell that they have it? Lots of you guys also have live demonstrations. So they have to demonstrate a skill for you in order to get their certificate. So we'll talk a little bit about how to set up certificates so that they have to be approved by you so that you can say, yes, that person did in fact demonstrate that skill for me, and they get their certificate. For some courses, you won't need that. They can take a test, and if they pass the test, then that's great. On the other side of that, what materials do you have? We can support pretty much any kind of learning that you want to do. I'm going to show you a couple of things that if you are starting out with sort of low-end availability of stuff, like this is what I have a Word document, or I have PowerPoint and that's all I have, and I'd like for it to be a little flashier. We'll talk about some things you can do to help make that more appealing in FranConnect. And then with a bunch of you, I know I've spoken about role-based training. So a little bit like some of this stuff. Now, the stuff that you guys were talking about, everybody sort of goes through. Everybody needs marketing. Everybody needs operations. Everybody needs education. But sometimes we have people who are in different roles. You know, there are technicians who will be doing things. Back in my bakery example, there are people who will be baking, but then there are people who are bartenders, and they don't necessarily need the same set of skills. So you can have a bunch of different paths that people use, different learning paths. And then the other question, of course, is, do they need to retake it after a certain period of time? So I'll show you how to set up courses that will require, or set up certifications that require renewing. Anything else that I haven't covered in here that you guys are trying to implement or that you're curious about? All right, then. So pretty much everybody on this call has sort of seen this structure. I'm just going to remind you of it a little bit. The central unit of FranConnect education is the course. So we're always going to build the course, and then we're going to build the lessons and the quizzes inside it. Not every lesson needs a quiz, so some things can just be informational. And you can only have one quiz attached to a given lesson, but that quiz can be as long as you want it to be and can have as many things on it as you like. A plan, this is a new concept that we didn't used to have. It used to just be a file structure sort of a thing. So you had categories, and they were like big folders and folders of courses, and then of course lessons, and that was kind of how it went. Now we have the opportunity to set up plans. And the nice thing about plans is they can reuse courses. So if my bakers all need food safety and how to frost cupcakes, then they can have a plan that has that. And my bartenders need food safety and how to serve dinner at the bar, then we can share this course. And in the older versions of FranConnect, that was harder to set up to make a plan that perhaps reused skills. So as you're doing courses, you might want to think about the modularity of those skills. If everybody needs branding, then that can be one model that goes at the front of everybody's course. Welcome to our company. These are the rules about how to make sure that everything looks exactly like our brand. So learners get to take lessons and complete courses, and then they have an opportunity when they've completed the course to get a certificate. You can make that certificate automatic. As soon as they pass all these quizzes, boom, they get a certificate. They get an email that has that certificate attached to it that says, congratulations, here's your certificate for having earned this particular plan name certification. Or you can put a gate here that says, no, we have to look. And so what will happen is everybody who's completed all these quizzes will fall into a queue, and then we have to approve them as whatever the other thing is that they might have needed. Maybe they need to submit to you an outside license, education license. Maybe they need to have demonstrated to you that they understand how to do the service that you do. So you can set that up to be gated. All right, just to remind you of how that goes. So how many of you are going to have a certificate that you're going to want to approve? Do you think? Go ahead, Sharice. I saw you came off mute. Okay, cool. So you guys will. Oh, I think we might have talked a little bit about that too. So, and again, I have a couple of other customers who also do this. There's a practical thing.
Yes,
if you're going to be a swimming instructor, you need to demonstrate to me that you can do these pool skills. So what will happen then is they'll take all the preliminary courses and they'll pass whatever quizzes they have, and their record will wind up sitting in your queue to be approved. So you as the administrator will go in and look at the list of people who have completed a particular thing, and you will accept or reject it. You can make that only on, you can do that basically course by course. So the certificate comes in. If it's the kind that doesn't need approval, boom, they get an email, it's all done. If it's the kind that does need approval, then it will come sit in this queue in admin, and you guys as admins will look down the list of people, and you will have some external list probably that franchise owners have sent you that said, yes, this guy demonstrated the skill in front of me, or they've sent you little videos of them doing it, or however it is that you certify that they know how to do it. So you'll have some external source there, and you'll go down and say, yes, 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 no, this guy did not demonstrate it. And so if you say yes, they get an email. If you say no, it goes into a pile of rejected certifications, and those guys will have to go back and try again. So let's take a look at that. These are sort of what the certificates look like. There are about 4 templates, so we'll talk about those. Many of you have asked if you can put your own branded templates in there, and we are working on that with the development staff. We'll keep you posted as progress is made. This is the certificate email that they get. Congratulations, you have been awarded whatever the name of your plan is, and this is that certificate, the one you saw on the previous slide, with their name and their plan on it. So they can print that out, do whatever they want with it. All right, so let's go take a look at that. So the thing I'm actually set up to show you is the classes first. So there are a lot of different things you can do to put in classes. Paul, I know you have a series of PowerPoints, and we have seen that when you just upload something as a PowerPoint, what happens when somebody goes in to get it is that it just downloads the PowerPoint and they can look at it locally, and that's fine. But if what you want them really to do is follow along with something, regardless of what that thing was, if it was a Word document or a PowerPoint or something like that, if you make it a PDF, let me go in here. If you make it a PDF, then they can follow along with it. In this particular case, this was a picture that we made into a PDF so they can tell what different kinds of coffee there are. If this were slides, the slides would be presented one at a time. If it's a Word document, it would continue through there however many pages it is. This is a great option for if you have basically a manual that you're teaching out of, and that's broken up into all these skills sections. So for you guys, if you have a set of instructions about marketing, and that's 22 pages long or whatever, maybe you want to break that up into shorter sections that give them the various skills, like here's the branding document, here's the campaigning to your local market document, or the various other things that they would have, so that it's easy for them to follow along live while you're giving the class with them. In this particular case, this one doesn't have a quiz, so when they're done looking at it, they could just mark it as complete. Otherwise, you could give the lesson to them live and then let them go right to the quiz. If you wanted to embed video, you could certainly do that. And we've kind of seen this already. You could actually put in HTML. I don't know how many people here are familiar with HTML. A couple of things I'm going to show you later are some minor HTML tricks. But the nice thing about this, so we had a customer who basically had a manual that was electronic. This is the same thing. They have a boot camp. They bring people in, and they're going to talk about the various phases of doing this accounting software. And they already have a support site, and all of their stuff, they don't use Hub, they have an external one. So what they wanted to do is point people out as they go along, and point people out to their external site. So all of these hyperlinks are live, and as they go through the lesson, people just jump right out of here and go to their support site where they're controlling everything, and get that material, and then they're also sort of training them in the process to go out to that. Now, the way that you guys can use this, because you have Hub, is that you can actually make these links go directly to things in your library in Hub. So if what you want to say is, yes, we're going to maintain our procedures manual in the library in Hub, and this is the section we're going to look at right now, you can let them jump out to there, and then you don't have to maintain this documentation in two different places. Like, you don't want it to be an attachment here, because then whenever it changes, you have to change it in the library and then change it in all the courses. So you'd rather link it back to the library if you can. If you do SCORM, I don't know if you guys at Lightbridge do SCORM compliant stuff. This is a really simple example of this. I took a video that I just nabbed off the internet. And because our particular tools that we have laying around is Camtasia, I just put navigation on this video. So we can get in here and say, okay, here's my introduction. Here's how to make a cappuccino. And I just put markers in, and I can put a menu in here for them to look at things. So if you have the opportunity to do that with some kind of software, and lots of software does it, this is another way to make this more engaging, a little more interactive. SCORM will let you do quizzes and other, click-throughs and stuff like that. Sorry, was there a chat question? Oh, great. Yeah, so Camtasia and Captivate will both let you do that. So you could go ahead and just export that as SCORM content, and it'll make that zip file that you're used to seeing. And when you go to load the lesson, you just load that zip file right up. And you can use it just exactly like this. So already we're getting a little more sophisticated. I think most of you have seen this sort of create your own. And this can be used for a lot of different things. The more I talk to people about it, the more they are thinking about putting it up front. It's a really new thing, so we're not sure how everybody's going to use it just yet. But it seems like a perfect thing to put up front to be sort of an introduction to, hey, here's what you're going to learn in this course, and here are a bunch of different reference points for you. This is built the same way you build campaigns. Anybody who's just taken the sales module has looked at campaigns and workflows, and it's that same sort of drag and drop, drag a picture, drag a headline. You can make it look like anything you like. So with enough nice graphics, you can make this look pretty slick. This particular thing is a picture that has a hyperlink. So it looks like it's a video, but it's really not. What it is a hyperlink, and this will open the video in another tab and let them look at this video. And then they're still in the course when they come back. You can have them register for your live event. So if you have boot camps starting every 3 weeks and they need to pick the boot camp they're going to be in, you can have them go out to the registration page for whatever they're going to do. So you could put a bunch of little steps, like here's what you need to do to get started. First thing, register for the event. Second thing, watch these videos. Third thing, download the manual. Fourth thing, sign our release form. Whatever those things are, you could put together one of these little guys here, and these could go right to, again, Docs from Library. So if this were the release form, they could click on it and it would download it, and so on. So this actually has the opportunity to have a bunch of slick things in it. You could also have just regular attachments here, but again, I don't think the recommended thing would be to do that, because if you have it in the library anyway, you always want to point them to the one that is the most current. So all of those things are ways that you can make courses a little bit more engaging. You'd want to break them up pretty small. We were talking the other day, and Paul was asking the question, how many questions should be on the quiz? And they probably should be fairly short. You could make pretty long quizzes if you want to. I'm going to go in here and look for... So the other couple things I wanted to show you are both in this particular thing. We'll talk about the questions you can put in there. A really long test is hard for them to concentrate on. So typically, you only want 4 or 5 different learning items, main points that you're going to teach them in any given lesson, because that's all they can really hold at one time before they start to lose some of the ones you gave them at the beginning. So if your lessons are that short, then your quizzes can be 5 or 10 questions, whatever the big things are that you'd want them to know. Hi, Sharon. So you can have as many as you like. We recommend that you keep it as short as possible and have more lessons rather than give them a lot of information and then give them a giant exam at the end. We'd rather you quiz them along the way and they retain it a little better. Sharon, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, you have a little bit of background noise going on. And I don't want to mute you from this side because then you had, thank you. So I'll show you a couple of things on the quizzes. So I have a really short quiz here. And again, you can set it up to be however many questions you want. And since everybody here has been to the class, I'm not going to reiterate all the stuff about you can make these things mandatory, or you can let people skip them. All my questions you can skip. And if they skip it, then they get a navigation thing. They can go back and forth inside the quiz, and that's fine. I'm just going to walk them through this. I just want to show you a little bit about the difference between the types of questions you can have them answer. One of them are single answer select. Those are radio buttons. If I say there's one answer here, and then I change my mind, it changes. There can only be one right answer. It's Highlander. There can be only one. As many of you on this call know, because it's your business, things that are tricky where you just have, like, what does this acronym mean? And you have a bunch of things that are really close to each other. Unless that is really crucial to your business, those kinds of questions aren't really measuring knowledge. So you'd rather have them answer the big questions about really important stuff. One way to think of that is if your founder were to walk into your boot camp and start randomly quizzing them, what kinds of things would you want them to be able to answer? That's a good way to sort of measure, is this a really important thing, or is this kind of a side thing that I'm doing to make up questions? If you don't have a question about it, then you don't need to write a question about it. Also, we find that you don't necessarily need to have 4 answers for every question. If some things only have 3 distractors on them, that's okay. And it's not useful to make additional things which are like all of the above, none of the above, A and C but not B, B and C but not A. Extra distractors like that just to make up the numbers aren't really helping you assess what they know. So we wouldn't recommend that you write questions like that. Okay, so they're going to go to the next question. The other kind of question you could have would be multiple choice. More than one of these are right. Typically, you have 3 or 4 of these. It might have a whole list of them. If this was a list of the, the 6 critical things you need to know, then this could be a distractor list of 9 things, and they have to pick the 6 right ones out of it. This is sort of how you write these questions that you were trying to make multiple choice, and you wanted them to say A and C but not D. It's better to write them as a multi-thing and let them pick A and C instead. That way they pick the ones that are right. Now, there are some things that you need to know about this. Unless you answer it perfectly right, it's going to be marked incorrect. So if the correct answer is this one and this one, and your user marks this one and this one, then he's going to get it wrong, even though he had a right one. You have to get all of the right ones and none of the wrong ones, or this gets marked wrong. So keep that in mind as you're assigning the number of points. You don't get partial credit for having answered some of the things right. It's all or nothing. You can also ask text questions. For some of you, this is the only shot you're going to get at their feedback. So you can have a test, and at the end of the test, you can say, are there any other suggestions that you were hoping that we would cover in this class? Or do you have any feedback for us? And you can let them write you an essay. You don't have to assign points to it. So basically, you can take a little survey information at the end, and you don't have, that doesn't have to count against them. You can actually make slightly more complex questions. If you have the kind of thing where, but this is particularly true if you have a rich video library. So, for example, folks at Lightbridge, you may very well have good videos of interaction. You know, like this is how you should be interacting with people, or this is how you should do something, or this is what a lesson plan looks like, or something like that. If you do, you can actually have them. You can embed some code in there, and you can say, take a look at this video. Here's a guy. In my particular case, we're building a Carlsbad Ale House as a demo thing. We could say, here's a video of a bartender pouring a beer. Did he do it right? Tell me if he did any of these things wrong. He might have made one or more of these mistakes. So you can write a pretty complex question. Once they've saved it all, they're going to submit that, and they get their answers right away. So in this particular case, I didn't do very well in this quiz. So I can take a look at this. Here's my single select radio buttons. So I didn't do well on this one at all. For things that are not scored, they're actually marked as red, even though they're not wrong. So for example, this doesn't score at all. So it's marked as red because it's not green, essentially. They answered the question, but it wasn't right, therefore it's wrong. That's also what's going on with number 1. So even though there is a right answer, I didn't assign it a score, so it doesn't get counted against their grade. So in point of fact, out of 2 that counted, I got one of them right, and it was weighted pretty heavily, therefore I got an 83, therefore I passed. So remember, this could be a much more important question than one of these questions was. Legal questions could be way more important than marketing questions. Questions about quizzes. Cool. Okay, so let's say that what you got is a PowerPoint. And you're going to have people come in, like having a PowerPoint that people follow along with is great in a boot camp situation, right? Because you're live with them, you're walking through it together, they can step through the PowerPoint with you as they go. It's a little harder to have just a series of slides that are embedded in the page that you're scrolling down through, because you don't want to make a slide unit, right? You don't want to have a lot of text on the thing. You want it to still be engaging, but you don't really have the opportunity for a lot of interactivity because it's still just a PowerPoint. And if that's all you've got, that's all you're working with, how do you make that more interesting? Well, one of the things you can do is you can take your PowerPoint and you can walk through it and narrate it as though you were presenting it live. So there's a place in PowerPoint where you record, it says record PowerPoint show, and you walk through the thing and you talk to your laptop, and it records everything, including your narration for what's going on. And then you can choose to save your PowerPoint as a video file, right in PowerPoint. You can say save as MP4. And so what you get out of that is then a video. So if I were to take a look at that, and I'd upload it as though it were a video. So here's my PowerPoint, and if I start it, it begins to play. I have my sound turned off so that it doesn't talk over me. But it can be fairly slick, and it could have animation in it. and I had no other tool with which to build this thing than PowerPoint, and I can still make it pretty slick. And if I have a fairly slick PowerPoint like this, followed by a good quiz, and I can do a lot with not very much in the way of equipment or expertise. So all those things can help you make engaging programs to put together for your certification. Now, most of you, again, have been in the training where we talked about making certificates and so on. Would anybody like to see the making of certificates or the building of a plan? Does anybody have any other questions at all about the training stuff? Sorry, I cut off a question.
No, it's Therese. Hey, can we go through just making our certificate real quick?
You bet.
Thanks.
So we're going to do that on the admin side. Right now, you need to pick from one of the 4 that we have. So there are templates that we have. And you're going to go into plans and certificates because certificates that appended to courses, you've already made your courses and they've got all that stuff in there. So the next thing you're going to do is stick them together with certificates to make plans. So that's why certificates are in with plans. When you create, it's going to say, which one am I doing, a plan or a certificate? And these are the 4 things that we get to use right now. I'm going to use this one because I like it. So you can see here when I'm adding stuff, it actually shows you, okay, here's where you're going to upload your logo. Here's your heading. This is where the heading's going to be. Here's your subheading. And then any other message that you're going to put in, and you can see where it says message. So you can see where each one of those things is going to go. If you wanted to see where those things are going, like before you jump in there, you could do a preview, and it'll show you where all those things go. So here's your logo, here's your heading, here's your sub, and where the names go. The date's going to get filled in when they pass the quiz, and the signature is going to be a picture that you upload. So let's go make one. I'm going to make a certificate for this. Master Buildng. And I'm going to choose this one. And the heading will be I remember name will go, so here's my heading, Barista University, hereby certifies that, name, and then you can say, has completed the requirement, or, and then the plan name, so you want to name your plan appropriately, Master Barista, right here. Now the nice thing about that is that you can use the same certificate as long as this is pretty generic, then the name of the person and the plan name are just going to change as you reuse the certificate over and over and over, and you don't have to worry about making a different certificate for every course because the name of the plan will pop in where it needs to go. So, and if I assign it to the Master Barista course, then that's what it's going to be. And I can upload a signature. There's somebody's signature in here somewhere. This is probably my signature that I scanned upside down. So when it comes into the certificate, it'll be upside down. But need my logo. There we go. All right, there we go. Now, in order to actually see it in action, I think you have to assign it to a course. I think this is just going to show you the template again. Yeah, so this doesn't actually show you your logo until you assign it to a course. So if I were to go put a plan in here, And now I can put a course in. I can't make a certificate the first thing in a plan, and I can't put two certificates next to each other. It has to follow a course in some way. So there we go. Now I'll put a certificate in. And it will be my, I called it Master Barista. There we go. So now it's on there. When somebody takes this, I'll be able to see their certificate. They'll be able to see their certificate in their dashboard. So every certificate they earn, they can see here. So some time ago, I got certified barista. And this one actually has my name in it. I can print it and I can do whatever I want with it. There's my logo. There's my name because that's my login. There's the plan that I completed. There's the signature that we scanned from before, and the day I did it was about a month ago. So recommendations are, if you're going to use the one that does not have a white background, make sure that you're using PNG for your logo so that you don't get a white square around it. Same thing for the signature. But 3 out of the 4 of them have a white background anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Other questions about putting together certifications, plans, certificates, how courses all figure into that? Special cases you might have? All right, any questions about anything at all? You guys are an easy crowd. Helps that we all just had training, I guess. Very good then. I'm going to refund you 13 minutes of your day. This link will be available for you guys. There will be a thank you email that says thanks for attending, and there will be this link and the slides that went with it. And if you have any other questions about that, please do feel free to contact us. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.